Hello and welcome to the next installment of Skip the Fly, a live coaching experience with a three-headed coach. Today we're going to have our willing victim, our client. Jordan is joining us today. So in a minute we'll let each of us introduce ourselves. Hey, in the spirit of Skip the Fluff, straightforward, this is a live coaching experience with less noise, more signal, deep impact. And each coach that's here has a different approach. Paul, tell us what yours is.
I try to help somebody find their belonging in the self and where they are to basically get to their promised land. Make it theirs and just kill it.
Mike, how about you?
If this were a Monday Night Football introduction, I would say Mike Harris, Radical Freedom University. And that's where I come from, and that's where I am looking toward all the time.
And for me, it's about, the core concept is change your lens, change your life. By shifting the lens we use, we shift the way we collect evidence and therefore our experience. So that's where I come from. And Paul, since Jordan is your connection, please give a quick introduction and let him give one.
I'd like to welcome Jordan to the gang here. Jordan's this super cool guy that decided where he was never going to take him to where he really wanted to be. And man, he just took the reins back on his life.
True that. $20 coming your way under the table.
Thanks.
For the cool part.
So, Jordan, what do we need to know about you?
Yeah.
In under 30 seconds.
Yeah. So recently left several years in the big corporate environment, joined a startup, and I've really been diving headfirst into this leadership role, trying to grow myself, better myself every single day, and then I'll, of course, better those around me. A few things have changed for me. I now have a 2-month-old, so that lens is a little bit different, a new layer folded into my life. And I also have my first person, I guess, working under me, and only in the sense of title and tenure, but otherwise we're parallel.
Fabulous. So in terms of the time we're going to spend together today, what is something you want to see different in your world?
Yeah, it's incredibly important for me to keep growing as a leader. I'm very new to a leadership role, and so growth in any aspect is very important to me. Challenge is also very important, but what's really important is the impact that I can make today and going forward as a leader. So when I look back on my career, I can be happy with the change that I was able to make, or the growth I was able to instill or enable for people that followed me, as well as my own son.
When we're done with the call, what do you want to see different today?
I'd like somewhat of a new lens. And what I mean by that is sometimes I have a tendency to fly solo too forward, too fast. And so I'd really like a new lens that forces me to slow down just a tiny bit and interrogate reality a little bit more.
Interrogate reality a little more. Gentlemen, the floor is open. Let's play.
What about having a kid caused you to second guess or shift? Because you said it changed your lens. What did it bring you?
Yeah. Well, it's a new layer added into my life, right? It's one more thing to think about, right? It's no longer just the world that I knew before. It's now, everything I do, he's going to follow, right? If when he gets older, just like me, the first time I ever dropped an F-bomb was to my kindergarten teacher, right? I learned that from somebody. Kids are a sponge. He's going to be a sponge, just like other kids. And so whatever I am doing, I want to make sure that I am leading with the right intent so he can follow with the right intent and create his own path. And so I'm becoming very, very mindful of that. Even though he's only 2 months, I know that is coming.
Yeah, I noticed you said the right intent. I was fascinated by the distinction between getting it right and getting it real. Real is yours, right? As opposed to right. Who's fucking right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I want his own
intention?
intent. I want him to have his own intent, but I also want him to see that there's a good foundation to establish his own intent. I don't want him just running around saying, fuck this, fuck that, you're fucking wrong. I want him to be able to put his foot down in the correct manner and look challenge in the face. All the feel good stuff, of course, that we want for our children, but I want it needs to be the right intent.
Right intent.
I want to know who's defining right intent for you.
And I guess maybe that's where I need to instill the confidence in him to listen to himself, right? Just like you and I mean, Paul, you and I would spend countless hours. You'd ask me a question, I would say, "Fuck that," like pretty blatantly, right? But we were going all off pure emotion, right? Like how I felt in the moment. I want him to be able to see me make those judgment calls and create some sort of a foundation so he can make those same sort of judgment calls based on how he feels. So I guess if there's a guiding compass, it's whatever I can instill in him internally as a human.
Mike, you've got the crinkled brow. What's going on there?
It's not there yet. I want to hear more. And what I'm going to name is that my spidey sense tells me that there is something important here unspoken, and I can't quite put my finger on it yet. I don't know whether that unspoken thing is a clear desire that's been masked in a little bit of conceptual vagueness, or whether it's something that's just been straight up omitted thus far. But I'm going to take a few minutes and let this unfold before I really crinkle the brow.
Can I maybe help get you there, Mike?
You are more than welcome to help me there, Jordan.
So when Paul and I started my journey, I was in kind of a rocky spot. I didn't feel like I belonged to what I was doing. In fact, I felt like I guess I should also let you know that I also have a rebellious streak. And so in a corporate environment, rebellion is the rebellious streak is often frowned upon, versus the startup world that I'm now in. It's encouraged, right? In fact, that's kind of the fuel for a startup is that collective belonging of wanting to do something different or disrupt. And so some things that Paul and I were working on, especially as leadership, it was helping me identify what is not a leader. And frankly, I identified something very simple, the difference between a leader and a manager. And so now if I look at how do I want my child to grow up and see me, I want him to see me as a strong leader and not a manager, somebody that lifts other people up and creates other leaders and doesn't focus on creating followers.
I'm going to play David and peel a layer. So it's really about how your worry, your concern about how your child in the future, how they will reflect on you.
Yes and no. Put it that way, it sounds like shit. It's more so being mindful of myself so that he can establish himself in a way that he sees fit, of course. But I also don't want, I don't want to raise, I don't want to raise a yes man, right? Because that's a bunch of bullshit. That life sucks. So I guess you can kind of see where my wheels are turning here a little bit. Where I'm trying to sort some of this stuff out.
What do you see as the next step in your growth as a leader?
Yep. So as I mentioned, I have my, first person working under me. And so right now that's a change to my career. And it's no longer just me pushing the ball forward in my vertical. I now have somebody that, I rely on his success, but also in order to make him successful, right? He relies on me to teach and guide him. And so, right now, and I guess as far as work is related, I'm very focused on figuring out how can I help him grow himself, guide him in the direction that he needs to go, but also not be somebody that is overbearing, right? Watching over him, like, this is what you need to do. These are the steps you need to follow. This is who you need to talk to. This is how you need to talk to them. And it's learning how to guide him in a way that works for him and not be overbearing. Let him fall, but also pick himself up and feel comfortable asking for help.
Sounds like an exercise in trust.
For sure.
Not just trusting him, but trusting yourself to do a good job, and when parts of the job are finished, that you have done a good job or a good enough job.
Yep. It's very important that I help him grow himself into the role. Grow himself, not me grow him into the role, but him grow himself so he can be his own person, have his own voice, have his own way of doing things. And actually, I was reflecting on this over the weekend. So I scheduled it's every single Monday. We meet at 9:30 a.m. and we just chat for an hour. And so last week was our first time meeting, just for a one-on-one sort of environment. And we spent a lot of time talking about prospecting and stuff like that. And, first time in that sort of scenario for me, it felt a little bit stuffy. And so this weekend I was thinking through it, like, I think that's the wrong way to go about it. And so today I told him flat out, I said, hey, screw the prospecting. Like, you want to be in sales. You want to be in a director role at some point. You want to grow yourself. The reps are there. Like the repetition is it's a component of being in sales. So fuck that. Let's focus on something else. And I started actually where Paul started with me, which was, what are your goals? Where's your promised land? Where do you see yourself? And let's start simple. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And so he told me that, and we just kind of work backwards from there. And then we got all the way down to the fear aspect, right? What do you fear? And so we kind of shifted a little bit, and it was awesome because I could see the shift in his interaction with me from my meeting with him today versus my first meeting with him last week, where we were just focused on like, this is how you prospect, blah, 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 blah. So it was really cool to see. But at the same time, I had to reflect a little bit. I had to hold myself accountable that, hey, maybe this is the wrong approach and try something a little bit different. And frankly, it just came down to me admitting to him that, like, hey, this is my first time. Like, I think there's another direction that we need to go here. And sometimes I guess, you need to be okay being vulnerable, and letting people know that you're, that you're still trying to figure it out. But when you bring two people down to a human level, it's amazing what you can get accomplished. And frankly, today, the look on his face, like, if I had to call the day quits at the end of that meeting, man, I would have felt like it was a super successful day.
Yeah. So last week you went straight into do mode.
Yeah.
Right? And this week you connected with a human being in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you played with the being. The stuff that was really important underneath the doing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. 100%.
So where do you see the distinction between parenting and leadership?
Work child, life child. Just like my rep, his success and growth is enabled and magnified by me. My son, his success and growth is enabled and magnified by me. So I guess very different worlds, home life, work life, but really one and the same.
That for a long time, the only difference between parenting as leader and leadership is in parenting, one audience starts out shorter. Right.
And you usually spend a lot of time wiping his ass.
Metaphorically in the workplace, hopefully.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody had to say that.
Yeah. People always ask, how's the little one doing? I say, well, eats like a horse, shits like a cow, and he sleeps like Tommy Lee at an after party.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to play with there. Their growth and your growth is inextricably linked. And there isn't a right way to do it. There's your way.
Yeah.
There's not some grand ethereal right.
Right. That's why there's 1,000 books on raising babies and 1,000 books on sales and leadership.
Yeah, and they're all fabulous and they're all shit. Depends on which perspective you're
Yeah.
coming from, and whether it aligns with you and your values and what's real and true for you.
Yeah.
And so, as much as you want him to be able to come from his true center, the way to teach him that lesson is to model it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, work child, home child, same thing.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that you were being vulnerable, by being vulnerable and acknowledging this the first time you've done this, it was brilliant. It gave permission to be real and human. Paul, to belong.
Oh shit! There you go. That's turned into a drinking game because of these two.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah.
He
That's what
mentions
you
the
read.
B word. Yeah, that's yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
a thing. It's a thing.
Belonging.
So Jordan, you were able to get yourself into a vulnerable place with your new peep, and it came across as that felt like a new and a great move to go from last week to this week. There was a different presence there. How does that translate when you think about being vulnerable with your son in the future, or even now in your own thoughts?
Ask that again.
That was a really cryptic, stupid question. Sorry, gang. Shut up, Mike. The space where you got vulnerable and you moved into that and you changed and you decided to be different. How does that translate when you think about being that way with your son, like even currently in your own mind, and maybe even the future, maybe at 5, maybe at 13, maybe at 18, maybe at 22, when he's saying, "No, Dad, what about you? Fuck you." Breakfast Club.
It's okay not to know.
Mm.
So it's okay to not be right. And that's the same in either world. Right now, I'm learning a lot of. I guess there's a lot of going through some big learning curves here over these last 2 months. What does this cry mean? What does that action mean? And end of the day,
Assuming, of course, there's a right answer.
Which 2 months in, there's almost never a right answer. It's all a big guessing game, but that's one of the things that I've really started to kind of reflect on over the last couple of weeks is that it's okay. Like, do the best you can. Do the best you can. Love the shit out of them. Yeah, that'll be fine. He's got a clean diaper-ish. He's fed. Sleeps sometimes. As long as I love the shit out of him, it's going to be good.
Taking this to a lens shift, you came from an environment where, to over generalize, there wasn't space for not getting it right. There wasn't a space for being messy. Coming out of a corporate experience, there are a series of unwritten rules by which you have been trained to lead your life. Mm-hmm. And what a great confluence. New startup, new kid. Holy crap. Your opportunity is to look at what are the unwritten rules that are still percolating and still influencing you and still unsettling you. You're not in corporate. You're not in an environment where it's okay not to know. You're in an environment where it's okay not to know. And it's okay to be messy. As long as you clean it up. Everybody makes messes. Your new direct report, your 2-month-old, you. Difference is leaders clean them up. So what are the unwritten rules that are still making messes for you in this new venue?
Corporate to startup, it was very regimented, very structured. In the office by 7:30, prospecting. By this time, did you make this many calls? Did you send this many emails? Blah, 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 blah. And if you weren't having any success, then go make more calls and fucking bullshit. Sometimes and less so recently, but up until the last 2 weeks, and I think, being a new dad has helped me realize this. I can no longer be in the office at 7:30 every morning. Not going to happen. So it's forcing me to break some of that. I still feel some of this, it's almost overbearing regiment that I need to follow, but I'm starting to let go of that a little bit. I don't have to make 100 fucking calls today. And I don't even have to make 100 fucking calls tomorrow. As long as I give it my best effort, and then it's okay that I let go of some of that fear. And frankly, that was some of the stuff that I realized in the work with Paul is, I was a little bit fearful, and that fear was causing me to hold back a little bit. And actually put more pressure on myself to step back into that regiment. And Paul did his whole belonging thing. Drink, guys.
Oh. That's not when Paul says it, but okay.
Nice.
It helped me realize. It actually got me thinking and listening to myself internally, and realizing that this is not the place for me. Like, done this for the last 9 years. I'm fucking done with this shit. I can go be of extreme value somewhere else. And that's been totally just true. Like, my rebellious spirit is back, which if Paul and you three have had, or the three of you have had conversations, I have an incredible rebellious streak, and I'm embraced. Like that's something that's embraced in my new world. And so now it's like all these reins that I used to have, like, just shackling me in my old world, they're gone. It's awesome. It is so awesome. But I definitely feel that sometimes there's some anxiety sometimes that I have to step back into that regimented world.
If you could let something go right now, that would drop you into your extreme place, is there anything you can think of?
What do you mean by extreme place?
Well, you just said you did this thing and you got to be yourself, your rebel self, and create extreme value. Is there anything that's like an internal rule or an unspoken rule or something in play that's holding you out from that? If there isn't, that's cool. Don't worry.
Honestly, right now, I don't think there is. Feel the freest and most fulfilled, I think, that I've ever felt in my entire life. In fact, I'm enjoying life more today than even when I was playing baseball. which was my first passion. I feel totally fulfilled right now, and but also like half empty. Let's go get some more. I feel totally free.
Say more about let's go get some more.
Well, getting back to the promised land, I have lots of goals. But I now work for, not a single person that I work for is a manager. They're all leaders. And every day when I wake up and I go into the office and I sit down and do my job and whatever that looks like I feel so freaking fired up to do a good job for them. I don't feel like I have to. I feel like I get to. And that's really cool. And not only that, but I feel valued by them. And they treat me as though I'm a leader on their level, which is something I always wanted. I feel like I am surrounded and working with a bunch of leaders, no managers. And so when I say half full, it's seeing the bigger picture. It's wanting to make sure that I'm doing a good job for my CEO and doing the things that are going to drive our company forward. Because it's not just my success that's important to me, it's my success that's important to the team. And especially being a small team and a small startup, everybody's got to pull their weight, and some days it's diving into the shit and being okay with it, and other days it's driving business forward, whatever that looks like. We all have to pull our own weight together. And so I am incredibly pumped up to want more, but also go find a way to get more every single day for my team.
I'm noticing my attention is drawn to Mike because you keep percolating. I'm curious where you are. Oh, rebellious one.
I have a curiosity on a little bit of a tangent here, but I get the feeling that there's something here. That picture over what, I don't know whether that's your left or your right shoulder. That one.
Left.
That's your left. What does that say about your leadership style and your leadership journey? Because I know what the picture is. I remember that very distinctly. It's one of my favorite moments in baseball history, and it speaks to me in a very special way. I'm curious as to its influence on you.
It's just a reminder of how I feel about Paul.
Fair. You're not alone.
Before we dive into that, I should also let you know that my son's name is Nolan. After that picture. Yeah. Named him after his mean right hook and his okay fastball. There's so many meanings behind that picture. I think first and foremost is it, as a former pitcher, everybody used to make fun of us as being non-athletes. So that's a big fuck you to the guy with the club, right? But it's you have to take whatever's thrown at you, and you could just take it head on and run right through it, or you could run away like a little bitch. And that reminds me every single day that we're gonna go fucking run through a wall. Who cares who's standing on the other side? Let's go fucking get it.
For context for the other two of us, what's going on in the photo?
That's a picture of Nolan Ryan, the Ryan Express. And he's got Robbie Ventura in a headlock, and he's punching his face in. And then he gets back up on the mound right after that's over, blood on his jersey, and just gets right back at it. The guy is an absolute workhorse. Absolute workhorse. Total badass. Probably the most badass man to ever step on a baseball field, in my humble opinion.
And might I also add there that there's something that I get about you that was real true for me about Nolan Ryan, which is he was a real fucking honest pitcher.
Yeah.
He didn't have a big repertoire, but he was honest about what he had and what he did well, and he worked with it, and he didn't give a fuck if he walked 200 guys a year.
Yep.
If that's how it had to happen, that's how it had to happen, but he was going to let it rip.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. That was very well said.
And
yeah.
And that speaks a lot to not just, you know, how you do your job, but how you are forming as a leader. Right? Because when you got honest with, you know, with this employee that you're mentoring, like when you got honest with him, his world opened up too. Like your world opened up, and so did his.
Yeah.
That's what leadership is. That's growth in leadership right there, Daddy-O. Paul DTK, that's the first and last time you will ever hear someone say Daddy-O in a coaching session.
I'm glad we're recording this, right?
Gotta have it for posterity. Gotta have it for posterity.
Well, he is a new Daddy-O.
He is. That is correct.
How's it feel? And I have a privy to this just from earlier hanging out with Jordan. But how does it feel to have gone through that fight with yourself and to go out and find a place where you got back on the mound, even bloody, and you went back to it?
Feels damn good. Feels damn good. Makes me feel like, oh, he's a bad man. It's yeah. It's a good wake-up call and a good reminder. Really, really good reminder that it's okay to, I guess, to get back to it. Being a little bit down. But there is something good on the other side, right? You gotta allow yourself to be a little bit uncomfortable. But first you have to build the confidence up that allows you to get there, to be uncomfortable. And then once you're there, there's two ways through the wall. You can either go through it or you can go over it. And then there's option number 3, which is run away from it. And I think running away from it would have led me back to corporate, or actually maybe even stay with where I was at, which would have been good.
DTK, I'm calling on your face right now.
Yeah, I you notice the question keeps coming back up. You know, you put yourself in that photo. What was it that you had in a headlock in your battle?
Ask that again.
What was it that you fought? Nolan's got, I don't remember who, in the headlock. Paul asked about you doing the same kind of battle. What was in the headlock? What were you fighting?
So Mike called it out. He said he had a feeling that I was the very honest pitcher, and something that really just it weighed on me. And this was from my old environment in corporate. Is my leader, I call him a manager, would say things that were totally not right, would do things that were not right. And who was the honest pitcher that would bring it to attention? It was me. And what that turned into was, frankly, and this is how I could tell he's a manager. He was a manager, not a leader. Is that it broke his confidence. Me calling him out and holding him accountable broke his confidence, and in turn, it would cause him to push back against me and try to do the same thing against me. My intentions, however, were good. It was to hold him accountable and be the member of the team that was that linchpin, was the one that was willing to speak up because nobody else would. And so I was, after going through that for a couple of years, I was totally gridlocked and I was exhausted. I was fucking done with it. And I think one more month there, and I would have laid the motherfucker out.
Living out of sync with your values is exhausting.
So exhausting.
Yeah.
So exhausting. And especially when you don't realize that that's what is happening. It's one thing to be able to identify it and address it and do something about it. But when I had no idea, I had absolutely no idea. For me, it was just exhaustion without understanding or reason, thinking there was no reason to it. It was horrible.
I can see the blood on your shirt.
Yeah. And now my current environment, it's I'm allowed to be that guy. In fact, I'm expected to be that guy. It's awesome. It's totally awesome.
That's a big shift for you.
Huge.
Going from being valued for your conformity to being valued for your integrity.
That's super well said too, Mike. You're on fire, my friend.
Night and day.
You are on fire.
Thank you. Yeah, conformity sucks, man. Like, it's just shitty. It is so shitty. It's shackles. It's like driving a Ferrari with the e-brake on. Like, why would you want to do that? Just stupid.
Last week, was that the headlock you were wrestling with when you decided to change your tactic? What was going on in you when you made that shift of, I'm not going to do this, talk about this, I'm going to get real with him, turn into Mr. Honest Pitcher?
I just got back to thinking about if I was on the inverse, what would I need? And also, what didn't work for me in the past? So I've worked for micromanagers, last guy, and even more corporate environment. Most of my 9 years, and anytime I would speak up or say something or open up, like, it was always wrong. And so I thought, okay, if I'm young in my career, what do I really need to hear? And what do I wish that I had learned It was okay to do earlier, and it was to be vulnerable and super fucking honest. It's okay to be honest. And so that's where I put myself. I put myself on the other side of the table, and what would make an impact for me.
What will your new report say to your 16-year-old son about you?
I would fucking die for that guy. And if you ever need a couch because dad's pissing you off, just give me a call.
And who do you get to be in order for that future to exist?
Ask that again.
Well, achieving more requires becoming more. If that's the future you want to see exist, where your direct report says to your then 16-year-old, I would die for that guy. Who do you get to be in order to make that happen?
The fearless leader
Mm-hmm.
that is vulnerable, that is honest, and that is more focused on creating leaders than creating followers. I get to be the guy that says, fuck the numbers, let's do this right.
What else? Got a corner of a smile coming. What else is there?
I was looking at Paul's face. It looks like he has a chubby, so I was wondering what he was thinking.
Well, he said he was honest.
There it is.
What's standing in your way?
The brick wall that I'm about to run through. Nothing.
Sound like that's standing in your way. Right.
Nothing. It's me. Anything that's ever in my way is just me. There's always a way to get around it or go through it. Doesn't have to be right. There's no magic pill, perfect solution, this, that, the other, no magically paved road. There is just a way to figure it out. And the only person holding me back from figuring that out is myself. There's trial and error, and error is fine, man. Failure is good if we learn from it. And I definitely don't fear failure. In fact, I embrace it. I think it's good. I think the only thing that would ever truly hold me back is if I don't keep learning. If I don't keep finding a way to get better.
Get better or be better?
Be better. Good correction. Be better for sure.
How do you know that you're being better?
Fuck you, Paul.
Yes.
By being willing to lay any doubt on the forensics table. If there's any doubt, then I'm not asking enough questions, or I'm not asking the right questions. Right? No. What you
If
got,
there's any
David?
doubt you're not asking the right questions, that sounds like an unwritten rule.
Well, I guess then there's two sides to doubt. Right?
Let me pare back just a moment. How'd you know you were being better when you changed your whole approach with your guy? What told you were right? That was
Right.
I know rights, we're not supposed to be using the word right, but fuck it, we're using right. But you were going to be
Felt it
better.
here. Yep. There's a feeling. There's a feeling. Humans are emotional. They're not numbers. Right, corporate? Anybody listening?
Say 9 years in corporate. How'd you make it that long?
No idea.
He barely made it through the last few. I know that.
Yeah, it's humans are not numbers. They are emotional. Every single day they are emotional. Even the math guys, they're emotional too. They won't tell you that, but they are. So it just felt right to be on a human level, on an emotional level. And started with how I was feeling.
To go back to, how do you know when you're being better?
I want to say it feels right, but that would be too easy. But if it feels right, and I'm truly listening to how I'm feeling, if I truly listen to my gut and my heart, then I must be better.
Nothing you're describing is external.
What do you mean by that?
I was gonna say you got that right. No, right. It's everything that you just described was internal, somatic knowing.
100%.
It wasn't about awards, acknowledgement, accolades. It wasn't about feedback. Any of the bullshit you were trained with. Wait, no, to be fair, they all have their place. That wasn't where you centered. You're speaking to when it's real. I make the distinction between real and right. In this situation, I hear you speaking about it was real.
Mm-hmm.
Felt real.
The awards, the accolades, anything like that, if you do it right, like that shouldn't be your guiding star. That shouldn't be what you focus on. If you do it right, that shit will be there. The money will be there. The success will be there. The stupid trophy that says MVP of the month will be there. But how are you going to get there if you can't be here first? You got to be here first. So I guess that's a big shift for me, is I'm no longer looking at spreadsheets of statistics and touches and anything like that. Every time I reach out to somebody, it is a off the cuff message that comes from here. Every time I guess whenever I act throughout the day, it's based on how I'm feeling. Paul helped me get there, but that's been a huge shift, as I no longer look at the BS, that the cookie cutter shit that people tell you to look at. Right? It's what they tell everybody. It doesn't matter. You gotta show it for me.
Does that mean you don't want a Corvette anymore?
Fuck you, Paul. Still want a Corvette.
Good. That makes me feel better. That you still want a Corvette.
So Jordan, what are you taking away from
but I
the time
can't-
together? Go ahead.
Hold on, David. But I can't get that unless I start here and do everything else right.
Be here first.
Got to be there first, and then the shiny Corvette will come as a byproduct. If I even want it, then maybe I want maybe it'll come out with like a thing with I don't know. There's gonna be something weird in a couple of years when I can buy that thing that's gonna replace my Corvette.
When you can buy that thing, still come from here first and determine if it's that or if it's something else.
Exactly. Sorry, David. You were.
No, I was gonna ask you, just in the interest of time, what are you taking away from the time together today?
I really appreciated this. It's one thing. Paul knows me, and I also know where I can kind of push the boundaries a little bit with him. It's another thing to meet two brand new individuals and make two brand new friends that I don't know, and to I guess navigate a lot of this stuff with people that haven't had a chance to form opinions with me yet. I already know what Paul thinks of me. He thinks I'm awesome.
And what are you clear about now that you weren't an hour ago?
I just got a really good reminder that it's always got to come from here. Always has to come from here.
Always, in all ways. Thanks for playing today, Jordan.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Brother, it was a pleasure.
And for those of you who are watching the replay, thanks for joining in. Gentlemen, anything else you want to say? You didn't even say belonging.
Fucker.
Well, now we have to.